Now about 8 days after these sayings, Jesus took with him Peter and John and James, and went up the mountain to pray. And while he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw 2 men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. Now Peter and his companions were weighed down with sleep, but since they had stayed awake, they saw his glory and the 2 men who stood with him. Just as they were leaving him, Peter said to Jesus, "Master, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah," not knowing what he said. While he was saying this, a cloud came and overshadowed them, and they were terrified as they entered the cloud. Then from the cloud came a voice that said, "This is my Son, my chosen. Listen to him." When the voice had spoken, Jesus was found alone, and they kept silent, and in those days told no one any of the things they had seen. Have any of you ever seen a pink flamingo? When we've been to Chester Zoo, we have seen plenty. We haven't been there in such a long time. But one of the things that I remember at Chester Zoo, alongside the bats and the elephants and the snakes, are the pink flamingos. Strange looking creatures, aren't they? Very odd looking birds. You just don't see many bright pink tall birds with long necks running around the place. Certainly not outside the wild or the zoo. I wonder though if you realise that pink flamingos aren't pink all of their lives. When they are hatched, when they are tiny, they are an entirely different colour. I wonder what colour you think they are. Purple? Black? Red? What colour, I wonder? Well, when flamingos are very, very small, they are a kind of off-white grey type colour. By the time they are 3 years old, they change colour to pink. I wonder if you can guess why that is. It took me a while to understand it, and I had to look it up and talk to other people about it. It is basically because of what they eat. Flamingos eat 2 kinds of foods generally, sea algae and shrimp. The sea algae and the shrimp cause the flamingos to change colour from a sort of off-white, greyish, greenish colour to pink. And it's because of the food that these flamingos put into their mouths, into their bodies, that eventually they change colour. It's a very strange way to change, such a dramatic transformation from one colour to another. Technically, the red and the blue-green algae they consume is loaded with beta-carotene, which is a sort of organic chemical that contains a reddish-orange pigment, hence their changed colour. Talking about changing things, talking about change, transformation, transfiguration even. Remember how Jesus very often took himself away to be quiet, to spend time with God, to pray, to listen, to get away from all the bustle and the hustle and the busyness of life and ministry, just to be alone with God. We remember those times, those many times in the Gospels. And he was having one of those very quiet moments with Peter as well, and James and John accompanying him, when something miraculous happened. He didn't change from grey to pink or to red, but something amazing did happen. And as Peter and James and John watched, Moses appeared as well, and also Elijah, starting to have a conversation with Jesus. And then God got in on the scene as well and appeared. Incredible. And everyone changed. And Jesus became transfigured. He shone out with the glory, with the light of God's presence. We are called to change as well. And what it is that changes us is the recognition that we are loved by God. Loved, valued, precious, unique, cherished. And even though I guess it would be nice to experience those mountain top times and to stay up there on the mountain peaks, we know that God calls us into the real world, the real down-to-earth world, to love, to care, and to be people of light and hope. Can we shine with the glory and the love and the power and the presence of God? I wonder. Let's let God into our lives, into our hearts, and be changed from within.